Hello, my name is Joe Roberts, and I'm going to be doing a set of YouTube tutorials for a friend of mine on different aspects of the Technic Pack. If you're not that specific friend, we're always happy to help. I hope this is useful for you. This specific tutorial is going to be covering Redpower, specifically pneumatic tubes and the 5 machines that influence them. The transposer, the filter seen here, the sorting machine seen here, the retriever over here, and finally the item detector. Sorry. Anyways, here's a machine that I built using the machines just for the basic understanding of the concept. I'll try to tell you what it does, and then I'll explain the different machines in detail. This has 4 things: it's an extractor, a furnace, a macerator, and a compressor. And what this does is that you put things into this right over here, like if I were to put iron dust in there, and it's going to send it to different color tags. If you noticed, white was my extractor, green was my compressor, yellow was my furnace, purple was my macerator. So since I put iron dust in here, it's going to say, hey look, iron dust is in this column, I'm going to send it to yellow, which is the furnace. When you apply a redstone pulse to it, this will pulse once and send one item in that quantity down the line. It's going to go in here, and then this sorting machine is going to say when it receives a pulse, it is going to retrieve whatever it can from some machine that's down the line from it and send it out. A filter is a little bit different. It's an easier version of the sorting machine basically. It only has one input, but you can actually have multiple outputs on it. So if you had multiple chests here and you wanted a massive number of carbon plates, then you could do that. So let's run through the different machines that work with Buildcraft pipes. First is this guy right here, the filter, which is functionally identical to the transposer, which is kind of nice. Except that the transposer only handles a single item at a time, and filters handle multiple items at a time. You can think of it as one input, multiple outputs. A retriever is going to look at one chest or one machine that's over on this side, and it's going to pick up whatever it wants and send it down this line and throw it into whatever chest it wants. It'll throw it into the nearest available chest and just pick up whatever the heck it wants. Anyways, say for example that you didn't want it to pick up whatever the heck it wanted. Say if you wanted only to pick up iron in quantities of 4, you put 4 iron into this thing. It's going to search this machine and this chest on this side for 4 iron, and then once it has 4 iron, it's going to send it down to whatever chest it wants on this side. You can set multiple types of inputs like iron, tree tap, things like that, and it's going to pick it all up from the chest over there and send it down the line. It's not picky about where it sends it to, but you can actually set a tag, a color tag. And what that's going to do is that when it gets to this network of pipes over here, it is going to look for pipes with that color tag, and it's going to send them specifically into those pipes. It's not going to send them into pipes of a different color or pipes that don't have a color. It's going to send them specifically into that color. So you can empty a chest of one specific item and send it to a very specific place. That's what a filter does. A sorting machine is a more complicated version of the filter. Basically, it's very similar, except that it has multiple inputs instead of just one. With a sorting machine, you can connect to a network of pipes, which is many different types of chests or machines, and pull items out. It will also pull items in very specific quantities, like the filter. However, it has another major advantage. Say, for example, you wanted to make high voltage pipes and you wanted to send it to an auto crafting machine that would do that. So what you do is you pull out 3 iron and I don't know how much makes I think it's 8 rubber. No, it's 9. And then send that to an auto crafting table. And at that auto crafting table, it is going to make high voltage pipes. Very similar, very simple way of doing things. Mostly how this is used is actually you have a sorting machine pulling from multiple pipes, then you have a chest, and then you have a retriever on the other side sending something to specific parts of the machine. The next item over here, and like the filter, you can set a color tag on it. This thing has 2 modes. First, it has this mode right here, which is going to cycle through the items one by one. It'll pick up 3 iron, and then it'll pick up 9 rubber, and then it'll pick up 3 iron again. If you have 3 iron but you don't have 9 rubber, it's not going to do anything else. It's going to pick up the 3 iron and it's going to sit on the 9 rubber until one of these chests or machines over here has 9 rubber to give to it. The second mode is this guy right here, which is basically it's just going to pick whatever it wants in whatever order it wants. It's not going to be picky under that mode. The third machine, or rather the fourth, over here is the sorting machine. Basically, this is multiple different columns that go to specific colors. If you notice over here with this sorting machine, I had 4 different colors going to corresponding to 4 different machines, and so you have 4 different columns. Everything in this column is going to go to the macerator, everything in this column goes to the furnace, etc., etc. Like the macerator and, or like the filter and the sorting machine, it has multiple different modes that it runs through. This guy right here is going to pick one item from a specific column and then jump onto the next column. It will pick up one item from that column, it'll go to the next. If that next column doesn't have an item of that type, like if I was out of both iron and iron dust, it would not go onto raw carbon mesh. Or if I was doing a whole lot of iron and then I didn't have any raw carbon mesh, it would just sit there until it has raw carbon mesh. The second is this guy right here, which pulls out an entire column at the same time. Again, very useful for auto crafting benches, or if you're going to be doing some mixed ingot thing like bronze or brass, for example. It is also useful. It's mostly used for auto crafting tables because then you can pull things out in very specific quantities and send it to the auto crafting table that takes things in that quantity. All the items arrive at the exact same time, and then again it cycles through them, so it'll do this column and then this column, and if this column doesn't have anything, it'll just sit on that column until it does. The third mode is this guy. It's similar to the last one, but there's no order to the columns. It'll pull out everything in one column, everything in another, and then it'll just skip between columns depending on what it has in stock. The last item is this guy, which is most useful for a machine like we have right now. It's just going to pull out items in whatever order it wants, usually the order that is on the top left of the chest going right and down. Just pulls items straight out of the chest and throws them into whatever machines it can get at any given point in time. The last item over here is the item detector. This thing has 3 modes, which all send redstone pulses. This guy right here, which sends a pulse for every item going through it. This guy here, which sends a pulse for every stack of items going through it. And this guy here, that when something is shoved back into this guy, like for example, if you had this sorting machine draw a whole bunch of items in, but between the time that it draws out the items and the items get here, this chest fills up, the item detector would send a constant redstone pulse, which turns this machine off because it's getting a constant redstone signal. It can't be pulsed with a repeater, or timer, excuse me. This, in order to power the sorting machine and the retriever, it needs bluetricity, it needs power, which means you need a battery box, a solar panel. These 3 wires here could actually be battery boxes. Bluetricity is extremely easy to use. There's no in or out on any machines. They can be in any direction, any order. Uh, as long as they're connected to each other, they're sharing power. You can even have a retriever right next to a sorting machine, for example, and they're still going to be sharing power even if neither of them is touching a battery box. Lastly, just to function the machines in the first place, it needs a redstone signal. For example, when the redstone signal hits this sorting machine, it sends the iron dust, which I put that machine, down the line. In this case, to the furnace. And then once it's done, the furnace is done with it, this sorting machine is going to pick that up and send it down the line and drop it into this chest over here. Very simple way of doing things. Once you get the hang of it, it's pretty simple. Machines need to be delivered items from the top. They will not be delivered items from the side. That actually goes into this over here. And if you deliver it from the bottom, they're just used as fuel. So deliver them from the top, and then they come out from the sides. That's just the physical thing. If you look inside the machine, that's how it's supposed to be. The items themselves, one last thing I'd like to cover. They have multiple sides to the items. The eyes basically should face what you're pulling out. This thing has eyes, this thing is a little bar, that thing has a little dot, but that should always be in the direction of the items that you're pulling out. If you look at this guy, when you're sending a redstone pulse, those eyes flash downwards. Items move in the direction of the flash. Just keep that in mind and you should be perfectly fine. you have to be kind of careful with some of the machines. Like if you notice the sorting machine, once you have a break here, then the tube isn't connected at all. But if you have a filter or a sorting machine, then if you put it from the side, it's actually still connected. The reason is because if something comes in from the side, it's actually going to go into this box right here and alter what comes in from the top and bottom. It makes it very confusing. You have to be careful when you're rotating that, when it's connected to an activated network, because you could have some problems there. Just bear that in mind. That concludes this basic tutorial on pneumatic tubes. I'll see you in the next one.